Get security! This girl is stealing! The shrill voice of store manager Janet Pierce cuts through the afternoon calm of prestige fashion like a blade, her finger pointing accusingly at 16-year-old Zoe Williams, who stands frozen, a designer handbag still clutched in her trembling hands. The luxury boutique in downtown Seattle's premier shopping district falls silent. Every conversation stops. Every head turns. Every eye focuses on the young black girl whose only crime was examining the price tag of an $800 purse while her father browsed nearby. Marcus Williams, 45, feels the world tilt beneath his feet. For a moment that stretches into eternity, he watches his daughter's face crumble as the accusation hits her like a physical blow. In his simple polo shirt and well-worn jeans, he looks like any other father enjoying a Saturday afternoon shopping trip with his child. Nothing about his appearance suggests he's the CEO of Retail Max Corporation, the massive retail conglomerate that happens to own this very chain of stores. But right now, none of that matters. Right now, he's just a father watching his little girl's innocence shatter in real time. "Sir, step away from the merchandise and put your hands where we can see them." Security guard Robert Martinez barks as he rushes toward them, his hand hovering near the radio clipped to his belt. The man's face is flushed with the excitement of what he believes is a catch in the act. Marcus's phone buzzes insistently in his pocket. The third call in 5 minutes from his executive assistant about an emergency board meeting. The screen briefly illuminates with the Retail Max corporate logo, but he doesn't answer. He can't answer. Not now. Not when his daughter needs him. In the chaos of the moment, as other shoppers pull out their phones and store employees converge on their location, Marcus feels something break inside his chest. This is the moment every black parent dreads, when their child first experiences the cruel reality of a world that judges them not by their character, but by their skin color. The irony is devastating. His own company, his own policies, his own employees, and they don't recognize the man whose signature appears on their paychecks. You have no idea what you've just awakened, he thinks, watching his daughter's tears begin to fall. You have absolutely no idea who you're dealing with. 30 minutes earlier, the afternoon had held such promise. Marcus Williams pushed through the gleaming glass doors of prestige fashion with his daughter Zoe at his side, both of them laughing about something she'd seen on social media. It was one of those perfect Seattle autumn days, and he'd surprised her by suggesting they spend it shopping for her upcoming homecoming dance. "Dad, you don't have to do this," Zoe had said in the car, but her eyes were bright with excitement. At 16, she was becoming more conscious of fashion, more aware of how she presented herself to the world. Marcus wanted to give her this. A day of feeling beautiful, of being treated like the princess she was in his eyes. He'd dressed deliberately casual for the outing. The polo shirt was from Target, the jeans were 3 years old, and his sneakers had seen better days. No expensive watch, no designer accessories, no driver waiting outside. Today, he wasn't the CEO of a billion-dollar corporation. Today, he was just Zoe's dad. And that's exactly how he wanted it. The first sign of trouble came from sales associate Maria Santos, a young woman barely older than his daughter. Marcus noticed the way her smile faltered when she looked up from arranging a display and saw them enter. There was a flicker of something in her eyes. Not quite hostility, but definitely not warmth either. "Good afternoon," Marcus said pleasantly as they passed her counter. Maria nodded stiffly, her gaze following them as they moved toward the formal wear section. "Can I help you find something?" she asked, but her tone carried an undertone that suggested she hoped the answer would be no. "We're looking for homecoming dresses," Zoe said with a smile that could light up the entire store. "Something elegant but not too flashy, you know?" Maria's expression remained carefully neutral. "The formal section is over there," she said, pointing toward the back of the store. "Price points start at around $300 and go up from there." There was emphasis on the price, as if she was testing whether they belonged in this particular economic stratosphere. Marcus felt the familiar tightness in his chest, the sensation he'd learned to recognize over decades of being one of the few black executives in predominantly white corporate spaces. But he pushed it down. This was Zoe's day. He wouldn't let old wounds and past experiences color what should be a joyful experience for his daughter. Store manager Janet Pierce emerged from behind the customer service counter like a shark sensing blood in the water. She was a woman in her late 30s with sharp features and calculating eyes that immediately began cataloging their appearance, their clothing, their potential threat level to her store's bottom line. "Maria, why don't you help those customers over by the casual wear section?" she said pointedly, though no other customers were waiting. It was a dismissal, and they all knew it. Janet wanted to handle this herself. Marcus watched his daughter browse through the dresses with genuine joy, holding up options against herself and asking for his opinion. For a few precious minutes, he forgot about Janet's suspicious stares and the way security guard Robert Martinez had positioned himself with a clear view of their section. "What about this one, Dad?" Zoe held up a midnight blue dress that would complement her skin tone perfectly. The price tag read $450. "It's beautiful, baby girl. You want to try it on?" That's when Janet made her move. "I'm sorry," she interrupted, stepping between Zoe and the dressing room. "But we do require customers to register before trying on items in that price range." Marcus raised an eyebrow. "Register? It's store policy," Janet said smoothly, though her eyes never quite met his. "We need to see identification and a credit card for any items over $300, just to, protect the merchandise." The lie came so easily that Marcus almost admired her audacity. Almost. He glanced around the store and watched a young white woman emerge from a fitting room wearing what was clearly a designer dress worth well over $1,000. No registration, no ID check, no suspicious stares. His phone buzzed again. His assistant, probably wondering why he wasn't responding about the quarterly projections that needed his review before Monday's board presentation. But that world felt very far away from this one, where his daughter was being treated like a potential thief for the crime of shopping while black. "Of course," Marcus said evenly. "Whatever your policy requires." But even as he reached for his wallet, he could feel Zoe shrinking beside him. She was beginning to understand that something wasn't right about this interaction, that they were being treated differently, that the joy was bleeding out of their special day together. And Marcus Williams, CEO, father, man who had clawed his way to the top of American corporate hierarchy, felt his heart break a little more with each passing moment. The pretense of normalcy continues for another agonizing 15 minutes. Marcus provides his identification and credit card, watching as Janet scrutinizes both with the intensity of a forensic investigator. She holds his American Express black card up to the light, as if checking for forgeries, while Robert the security guard hovers nearby, speaking into his radio in hushed tones. "I'll need to verify this with the credit card company," Janet announces, disappearing into the back office with Marcus's card. Through the glass partition, he can see her on the phone, gesturing animatedly as she speaks. The weight of the situation begins to settle on Marcus like a suffocating blanket. This isn't just casual prejudice. This is systematic harassment. Every other customer in the store moves freely, shops without scrutiny, tries on clothes without bureaucratic obstacles. But his daughter, his brilliant, beautiful, innocent daughter, is being treated like a criminal suspect. "Dad," Zoe whispers, tugging on his sleeve. "Can we just go? This doesn't feel right." The pain in her voice is like a knife twisting in his chest. How does he explain to a 16-year-old that sometimes the world judges people by their appearance rather than their character? How does he tell her that despite all his success, all his achievements, all his wealth and power, He can't protect her from this fundamental injustice. "We're going to see this through, baby girl," he says softly, placing a protective hand on her shoulder. Sometimes standing up for what's right isn't comfortable, but it's necessary. But even as he speaks these words, Marcus feels his carefully maintained composure beginning to crack. The businessman in him recognizes the strategic value of documenting this incident, of building a case that could lead to systematic changes throughout the retail industry. The father in him wants to sweep Zoe up in his arms and carry her away from this toxic environment where her worth is being questioned. Janet returns with his credit card, her expression suggesting she's disappointed that it cleared authorization. "Everything seems to be in order," she says grudgingly. "But I'll need you both to remain in this section while you shop. Store policy." "And what section would that be?" Marcus asks, his voice still level, but carrying an edge that makes Janet take a small step backward. The supervised shopping area," she improvises weakly. Marcus looks around pointedly. There is no supervised shopping area. There are no signs indicating such a policy. There are no other customers being supervised. It's another lie, another indignity, another small cruelty designed to make them feel unwelcome in this space. His phone buzzes insistently. Another call from corporate headquarters. The irony is almost laughable. While his executives wait for him in the Retail Max boardroom 3 miles away, he's being harassed in one of his own company's stores by employees who have no idea they're tormenting their ultimate boss. "Sir?" Robert the security guard approaches with the swagger of a man who believes he's about to make his monthly quota of shoplifting arrests. "I need you to keep your hands visible at all times while you're in the store." "Excuse me?" The question comes out sharper than Marcus intended, and he sees Zoe flinch at his tone. "Just precautionary measures," Robert says, his hand resting on his radio. "We've had some incidents recently with customers matching your profile." Profile. The word hangs in the air like poison gas. Marcus feels something fundamental shift inside him. He's spent his entire adult life navigating these situations with diplomacy and restraint. He's built his career on being the calm, reasonable voice in the room. He's made his fortune by never giving anyone an excuse to call him angry or difficult or threatening. But they've crossed a line. They've gone from harassing him, which he could endure, to traumatizing his daughter. And that is absolutely, unequivocally unacceptable. "What profile would that be?" Marcus asks, his voice dropping to a register that makes both Janet and Robert shift uncomfortably. "I think you know what I mean," Robert says, puffing out his chest. "No," Marcus says, taking a step forward. "I really don't. Why don't you explain it to me? And to my daughter, who's listening to every word you're saying." The confrontation is building to a crescendo when Zoe, trying to diffuse the tension, reaches for a handbag display to steady herself. The motion is completely innocent, but in Janet's eyes, it becomes something sinister. "Don't touch the merchandise!" Janet snaps, loud enough to draw attention from across the store. Zoe jerks her hand back as if she's been burned, her eyes filling with tears of embarrassment and confusion. And that's when Marcus Williams, patient, diplomatic, eternally self-controlled Marcus Williams, feels his legendary composure begin to crack. The accusation explodes across prestige fashion like a bomb detonating in a library. "Get security! This girl is stealing!" Janet's voice carries the hysterical edge of someone who believes she's uncovered a major criminal conspiracy. Her finger stabs toward Zoe, who stands frozen with a handbag in her trembling hands, the same bag she'd been examining innocently moments before. The transformation in Marcus is immediate and devastating. Every muscle in his body tenses as if he's been struck by lightning. The careful composure he's maintained for the past 45 minutes, through the suspicious stares, the invented policies, the casual humiliations, shatters completely. "What did you just say?" His voice booms across the store with the force of a man who has never, in his entire life, been this angry. Other shoppers stop mid-conversation and turn to stare. Sales associates freeze behind their counters. The entire boutique falls silent, except for the sound of Marcus's rapid breathing. Janet takes a step backward, but her conviction remains unshaken. I saw her slip something into her jacket pocket. Robert, she's concealing merchandise. There is nothing in her pocket, Marcus roars, his voice cracking with rage and disbelief. She's holding the bag in plain sight. Are you out of your mind? But the damage is spreading like wildfire. Other customers pull out their phones, some recording what they assume is a shoplifting arrest, others simply gawking at the drama. Robert, the security guard, approaches with handcuffs ready, his earlier swagger now replaced with the grim determination of a man who thinks he's about to apprehend dangerous criminals. Sir, I need you and your daughter to come with me immediately, Robert announces, his hand moving to his radio. Ma'am, put the merchandise down slowly and keep your hands visible. The words hit Marcus like physical blows. They're talking to his daughter, his brilliant honor roll student daughter who volunteers at the local animal shelter and has never stolen so much as a pack of gum, as if she's a hardened criminal. You're going to apologize, Marcus says, his voice shaking with barely controlled fury. You're going to apologize to my daughter right now for making that accusation. I don't apologize to thieves, Janet replies coldly. It's the wrong answer. It's the worst possible answer. It's the answer that transforms Marcus Williams from an angry father into something far more dangerous. A man who has absolutely nothing left to lose. My daughter has never stolen anything in her life. The words come out like a howl of pain. She gets straight A's. She volunteers at the animal shelter. She's never even had a detention. But his protests fall on deaf ears. Janet has committed to her narrative, and Robert is already speaking into his radio, requesting backup from mall security. We're calling the police, Janet announces to the growing crowd of onlookers. This is what happens when people think they can just take whatever they want. Marcus looks at his daughter, really looks at her, and feels his heart shatter completely. Zoe is crying now, not the angry tears of someone who's been falsely accused, but the broken sobs of a child whose faith in the basic decency of the world has just been destroyed. Daddy, she whispers, the word barely audible above the chaos. I didn't take anything. I swear I didn't take anything. I know, baby girl. Marcus pulls her against his chest, shielding her from the stares and the phone cameras and the casual cruelty of strangers who have already judged them guilty. I know you didn't. This isn't your fault. None of this is your fault. But even as he comforts his daughter, Marcus feels something cold and terrible solidifying in his chest. These people have made the worst mistake of their lives. They've hurt his child. They've traumatized an innocent 16-year-old girl based on nothing more than the color of her skin and their own poisonous assumptions. They have no idea what they've unleashed. They have no idea who they're dealing with. And in approximately 3 minutes, when his corporate vice president walks through that door, they're going to learn exactly how catastrophic their prejudice has been. But for now, Marcus just holds his crying daughter and lets his rage build to levels that would terrify him if he had any capacity left for self-reflection. The situation spirals beyond Marcus's worst nightmares as more authority figures arrive like vultures circling a kill. Store director Patricia Hayes, a sharp-featured woman in her early 50s, bursts through the employee entrance with the self-important air of someone who believes she's about to handle a major crisis. What's all this commotion about? Patricia demands, her voice carrying the unmistakable tone of someone accustomed to being obeyed without question. We caught this girl shoplifting, Janet explains breathlessly. The father is being combative and threatening our staff. Marcus feels his vision literally blur with rage. Combative! I haven't touched anyone. My daughter is 16 years old, and you people are treating her like a criminal." Patricia doesn't even glance at Zoe, who is still sobbing against her father's chest. "Sir, you need to calm down immediately, or we'll have to call the police." "Call them!" Marcus explodes, his composure finally and completely shattered. "Call the police! I want the whole world to see what you're doing to a child." But Patricia is already moving, her phone pressed to her ear as she speaks to what Marcus assumes is mall security. "Yes, we have a shoplifting situation that's gotten aggressive. We need immediate backup." The lies are compounding now, each false statement building on the last until Marcus and Zoe are being painted as dangerous criminals rather than victims of harassment. Other customers who entered after them are still shopping freely, still trying on clothes, still being treated with basic human dignity. But Marcus and his daughter have been marked as threats from the moment they walked through the door. 16 years I've raised this girl," Marcus says, his voice breaking with emotion. 16 years of teaching her right from wrong, of showing her how to be a good person, of protecting her from exactly this kind of hatred. And in 5 minutes, you people have undone everything I've tried to build. His phone is buzzing constantly now, corporate headquarters trying to reach him about the emergency board meeting that was supposed to start 20 minutes ago. The timing is cruelly ironic. While the most powerful executives in his company wait for him in the boardroom, he's being humiliated and harassed in one of his own stores by employees who don't know they're destroying their careers with every passing moment. Mall security arrives in the form of 2 additional guards who seem eager to justify their existence. They approach Marcus and Zoe as if they're handling armed suspects rather than a father and daughter shopping for homecoming dresses. "We're going to need you both to come with us," the senior guard announces. "There's been an allegation of theft." "Based on what?" Marcus demands. "Show me the evidence! Show me what she supposedly stole!" Janet scrambles to maintain her narrative. "She concealed a bracelet in her jacket pocket. I saw it with my own eyes." "What bracelet?" Marcus pulls Zoe's jacket open, revealing empty pockets. "There's no bracelet! There's nothing in her pockets! You're lying!" But the truth doesn't matter anymore. The machinery of assumption and prejudice has been set in motion, and it's grinding forward with inexorable force. Patricia is now speaking loudly enough for other customers to hear, explaining to anyone who will listen that they're dealing with organized retail theft, and that the father has become increasingly aggressive and threatening. Each lie feels like another knife in Marcus's chest. He's not aggressive, he's protective. He's not threatening, he's desperate. He's not a criminal. He's a father watching his daughter's innocence be destroyed by adults who should know better. The worst part is watching Zoe withdraw into herself. The confident, joyful teenager who walked into this store has been replaced by a scared, confused child who keeps looking to her father for protection he feels powerless to provide. "Baby, look at me," Marcus says softly, crouching down to meet her eyes. "Look at Daddy. You didn't do anything wrong. These people are wrong. They're completely wrong, and they're going to have to face the consequences of what they've done." "But why do they hate us?" Zoe whispers, the question every black parent dreads hearing from their child. Marcus feels his heart break completely. How do you explain centuries of systemic racism to a 16-year-old? How do you make sense of hatred that defies all logic and decency? "They don't know us," he says finally. "They're judging us by how we look instead of who we are. And that's not okay. That's never going to be okay." Patricia returns from her phone calls with a satisfied expression. "The police are on their way," she announces. "We'll let them sort this out." That's when Marcus makes his decision. He's tried reasoning with these people. He's tried appealing to their basic humanity. He's tried protecting his daughter through patience and diplomacy. None of it has worked. It's time for them to learn exactly who they've been tormenting for the past hour. It's time for the most expensive mistake of their careers to reveal itself in all its devastating glory. Marcus reaches for his phone, not to answer the corporate calls he's been ignoring, but to text a simple message to his vice president. Need you at Prestige Fashion downtown immediately. Bring legal. The reckoning is about to begin. The transformation happens in an instant, like watching lightning split the sky. David Chen, Vice President of Operations for Retail Max Corporation, bursts through the glass doors of Prestige Fashion with the urgency of a man responding to a 5-alarm fire. His expensive suit is slightly rumpled, his usually perfect hair disheveled from running 3 blocks after abandoning his car in downtown traffic. Mr. Williams, his voice cuts through the chaos like a blade. Sir, are you and Zoe okay? The effect on the store is instantaneous and devastating. Every conversation stops, every phone call ends, every accusation dies in mid-sentence. Patricia Hayes, who seconds ago was explaining to a police dispatcher why they needed immediate backup, slowly lowers her phone as if it's suddenly become too heavy to hold. David! Marcus's voice is still shaking with rage, but there's relief there too. They accused my daughter of shoplifting. They've been harassing us for over an hour. Williams? Patricia's voice is barely a whisper. She's staring at David as if he's a ghost, her face draining of color as the implications begin to sink in. Did you say Williams? David Chen doesn't bother acknowledging her. His attention is entirely focused on his CEO and the daughter he's met at countless corporate events, the brilliant teenager who lights up every room she enters. Patricia Hayes, David says, his voice carrying the formal tone of corporate judgment. Meet Marcus Williams, Chief Executive Officer of Retail Max Corporation, the parent company that owns Prestige Fashion, along with 846 other retail locations across North America. The silence that follows is so complete it seems to suck the oxygen from the room. Patricia's mouth opens and closes without producing sound. Janet Pierce has gone completely rigid, her face a mask of dawning horror. Robert, the security guard, looks like he's about to faint. That's impossible, Patricia finally manages to croak. He can't be... He can't be what? Marcus asks, his voice deadly quiet. The rage is still there, but now it's focused and controlled, like a laser beam cutting through steel. A CEO? Successful? Wealthy? Or did you mean he can't be black? The accusation hangs in the air like a poisonous cloud. Patricia tries to stammer a denial, but the words stick in her throat, because they all know exactly what she meant. 8 years, Marcus continues, his voice growing stronger with each word. 8 years I've been CEO of this company. 8 years of building a corporation that employs over 50,000 people. 8 years of creating policies designed to ensure every customer is treated with dignity and respect. He looks around the store at the employees who have spent the last hour tormenting his family. And in my own store, my own daughter, my brilliant honor roll student daughter, gets accused of theft based on absolutely nothing except the color of her skin. Janet Pierce finally finds her voice, though it comes out as a desperate whisper. Mr. Williams, we didn't know. We had no idea you were... You had no idea I was what? Marcus explodes, his composure finally cracking completely. Human? Worthy of basic respect? A paying customer? Or did you have no idea that a black man could be successful enough to shop in your precious boutique? David Chen has pulled out his phone and is speaking quietly but urgently to someone at corporate headquarters. Marcus catches fragments. Full investigation, systematic discrimination, legal liability, immediate termination procedures. Patricia makes one last, desperate attempt at damage control. This has all been a misunderstanding. We have excellent diversity policies. Diversity policies? Marcus roars, causing several customers to step backward. You just spent an hour psychologically torturing a 16-year-old girl. You accused her of stealing with zero evidence. You made her cry in front of strangers. What diversity policy covers that? The phones are buzzing now. Corporate executives receiving emergency notifications, public relations teams activating crisis management protocols, legal departments preparing for the inevitable litigation. The machinery of Retail Max Corporation is mobilizing around this single, catastrophic incident. Marcus pulls Zoe closer, his voice softening when he addresses her directly. Baby girl, do you see what's happening here? These people judged us by how we look instead of who we are. But they were wrong. They were completely, totally wrong. Zoe nods, her tears finally stopping as she watches the adults who humiliated her scramble to undo their mistake. Dad, are you really the boss of all these stores? Yes, sweetheart. And that means nobody, absolutely nobody, gets to treat you like you're less than the amazing person you are. Patricia tries one more desperate appeal. Mr. Williams, surely we can resolve this internally. There's no need to make this public. Marcus turns on her with the full force of his corporate authority. Public? You mean like when you publicly accused my daughter of stealing? Like when you publicly humiliated her in front of an entire store full of people? That kind of public? The transformation is complete now. The harassed customer has become the most powerful person in the room. The accused teenager has been revealed as the daughter of a Fortune 500 CEO. The authority figures who spent an hour asserting their dominance are now begging for mercy from the man whose signature appears on their paychecks. Justice, Marcus realizes, is about to be served at the corporate level. The corporate response is swift, decisive, and absolutely merciless. Within 2 hours of David Chen's emergency call to headquarters, Patricia Hayes receives the phone call that ends her career. Marcus doesn't have to be present for the conversation. He can see its aftermath written across her face as she slowly hangs up and turns to face him with the expression of someone who has just watched their entire life collapse. Effective immediately, David announces to the assembled staff, his voice carrying the formal weight of corporate judgment. Patricia Hayes, Janet Pierce, and Robert Martinez are terminated for gross misconduct, discrimination, and violation of company policies regarding customer treatment. The words land like hammers falling. Janet Pierce begins to cry, not tears of remorse or understanding, but the desperate sobs of someone who realizes they've just lost everything over their own prejudice and stupidity. Please, she whispers to Marcus. I have children. I need this job. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Marcus looks at her for a long moment, feeling the weight of absolute power in his hands. He could destroy her completely. He could ensure she never works in retail again. He could make her a cautionary tale told in business schools across the country. Instead, he kneels down to Zoe's level. Sweetheart, what do you think? Should we forgive them? Zoe considers this with the serious thoughtfulness that makes Marcus so proud to be her father. They made me feel really bad, Dad. They made me think I did something wrong when I didn't. That's right, baby girl. They hurt you based on assumptions instead of facts. That's never okay. He stands back up and addresses the 3 former employees who are now facing unemployment, social media infamy, and the devastating consequences of their actions. I want you to understand something, Marcus says, his voice calm but implacable. This isn't about revenge. This is about accountability. You didn't just discriminate against random customers, you terrorized a child, my child, and that has consequences. The public relations nightmare unfolds in real time. Videos of the incident, recorded by other customers, begin circulating on social media within hours. The hashtag prestige fashion discrimination trends nationally by evening. News outlets pick up the story, framing it as a perfect example of the everyday racism that successful black families still face, regardless of their achievements. Retail Max Corporation's stock price dips initially as investors worry about the potential backlash, but then rebounds stronger than ever as the public rallies around Marcus's measured, dignified response to an unconscionable situation. The company's public apology is swift and comprehensive. Retail Max Corporation deeply regrets the inexcusable treatment of CEO Marcus Williams and his daughter at our prestige fashion location. This incident contradicts every value our company stands for and does not represent the respect and dignity that every customer deserves. But the real satisfaction comes from watching Zoe slowly regain her confidence. The scared, confused child who was crying an hour ago is now standing straighter, speaking more clearly, understanding that she has value and worth that no one can take away from her. "Dad," she says as they prepare to leave the store, "do I really never have to worry about people treating me like this again?" Marcus pauses, considering how to answer truthfully without destroying her newfound sense of security. "Baby girl, some people in this world will always judge others by how they look instead of who they are. But now you know something important. You have the power to fight back. You have the right to demand better. And you have a father who will move heaven and earth to protect you." Patricia Hayes clears out her office under the watchful eye of corporate security. Janet Pierce removes her name tag with shaking hands. Robert Martinez turns in his radio and badge, already knowing that his career in security is effectively over. The cost of their prejudice extends far beyond their jobs. The incident becomes a case study in corporate training programs. Their names become associated with workplace discrimination in ways that will follow them for years. The momentary satisfaction they felt from asserting power over people they considered beneath them has been replaced by the crushing weight of public judgment and professional ruin. As Marcus and Zoe finally leave prestige fashion without purchasing anything because the entire experience has been too traumatic for shopping, he reflects on the strange mathematics of justice. 3 people lost their jobs. A corporation's reputation was damaged and then restored. A father and daughter learned painful but necessary lessons about the persistence of prejudice and the power of standing up for what's right. But most importantly, a 16-year-old girl learned that she is worth fighting for. The drive home is quiet except for the soft hum of the engine and the occasional notification chime from Marcus's phone as messages pour in from executives, board members, and media outlets seeking comment on the afternoon's events. Marcus glances in the rearview mirror at Zoe, who is staring out the window with the thoughtful expression she gets when processing complex emotions. The immediate crisis has passed, but the deeper work of healing and understanding is just beginning. "Dad?" Her voice is small but steady. "Was it my fault somehow? Did I do something that made them think I was stealing?" The question hits Marcus like a physical blow. Even after everything, after the revelation of his identity, after the public apologies, after the firings and the vindication, his daughter is still wondering if she somehow deserved the treatment she received. "No, sweetheart, absolutely not." He pulls the car over to the side of the road and turns to face her fully. "You did nothing wrong, nothing at all. You were shopping, you were polite, you were respectful. The problem was never with you. It was with people who made assumptions based on prejudice instead of getting to know who you really are." Zoe nods slowly, but Marcus can see she's still struggling with the fundamental unfairness of it all. "It just doesn't make sense, Dad. Why would they automatically think the worst of us?" It's the question Marcus has been dreading, because answering it honestly means shattering some of his daughter's remaining innocence about the world she's growing up in. "Because," he says carefully, "some people have been taught to fear what they don't understand. They've been told stories about people who look like us, and they believed those stories instead of taking the time to learn the truth. It's not right, and it's not fair, but it's real. Will it always be like this?" The pain in her voice breaks his heart. Marcus considers lying, telling her that the world is getting better, that her generation won't face these challenges. But Zoe deserves the truth, even if it's difficult. Sometimes it will be, he admits. But not always and not everywhere, and definitely not without consequences. What happened today proved something important, that we have the power to fight back, that discrimination doesn't go unchallenged anymore, that your voice matters and people will listen when you use it. He reaches back to take her hand. More importantly, you learned something about yourself today. You handled that situation with grace and dignity. You didn't get angry or defensive. You didn't let them change who you are. I've never been prouder to be your father. Zoe squeezes his hand. I was really scared, Dad. I know, baby girl. I was scared too. Not of them, but scared that they were hurting you, and I couldn't stop it immediately. That's the hardest part of being a parent, knowing that I can't shield you from every injustice in the world. They sit in comfortable silence for a moment, before Zoe speaks again. What happens now to those people who got fired? Marcus appreciates that even after everything, his daughter's first instinct is compassion rather than vengeance. They'll have to figure out how to rebuild their lives and their careers. Hopefully they'll learn from this experience and become better people. Sometimes losing everything is the only way some people understand the consequences of their actions. Do you think they're sorry? Really sorry? Not just sorry they got caught? It's a sophisticated question that reveals how much Zoe has matured in the space of a single afternoon. I don't know, Marcus admits. Some people are sorry for what they did wrong. Others are just sorry they got punished for it. Time will tell which category they fall into. As they resume driving toward home, Marcus finds himself thinking about the broader implications of the day's events. The story will spread, as these stories always do in the age of social media. Some people will be outraged on their behalf. Others will find ways to justify what happened, or to minimize its significance, or to shift blame onto the victims. But the most important audience for this story is sitting in his back seat, processing her first real encounter with systemic discrimination, and learning that she has both the right and the responsibility to demand better from the world around her. Dad? Zoe's voice is stronger now, more confident. Next time something like this happens, what should I do? Marcus smiles, proud of his daughter for already thinking about how to handle future challenges rather than being paralyzed by this one. You should do exactly what you did today, he tells her. Stay calm, tell the truth, and never accept being treated as less than you are. And remember that you're never alone in these situations. There are always people who will stand up for what's right. As they pull into their driveway, Marcus realizes that despite the trauma and the anger and the public spectacle, something beautiful has emerged from this awful afternoon. His daughter has learned that she is valuable, that she deserves respect, and that justice, while sometimes delayed, does eventually arrive. And that, more than any corporate victory or public vindication, is what will matter in the years to come. 3 months later, the incident at Prestige Fashion has become more than just a news story. It's become a catalyst for change throughout the retail industry. Marcus uses his platform as CEO to implement the most comprehensive anti-discrimination policies in corporate America. The Dignity Initiative, as it becomes known, establishes mystery shopping programs using diverse customers, mandatory bias training for all employees, and a zero-tolerance policy for discriminatory behavior. The program spreads beyond Retail Max. Competitors, afraid of facing similar public relations disasters, begin adopting comparable policies. Industry publications write articles about the Marcus Williams effect on corporate culture. Business schools develop case studies examining how one afternoon of prejudice led to systemic change across an entire sector. But the real impact is measured in smaller, more personal victories. Letters pour in from families sharing their own stories of discrimination and expressing gratitude that someone with power finally stood up for what's right. Young black professionals reach out to Marcus, saying they feel more confident demanding respect in their workplaces. Parents tell him their children sleep better at night, knowing that injustice doesn't have to be accepted silently. Zoe, now a senior in high school, has become an advocate for young people facing discrimination. She speaks at conferences about dignity and self-worth. She mentors younger students who've experienced prejudice. She's applying to colleges with the goal of studying civil rights law, inspired by her father's example of using power responsibly. The most important thing I learned that day, she tells audiences, isn't that my father is a CEO. It's that every person has inherent worth that no one can take away from them. You don't need money or status or connections to deserve respect. You just need to be human. As for Patricia Hayes, Janet Pierce, and Robert Martinez, their stories serve as cautionary tales about the real cost of prejudice. Patricia struggled to find new employment for over a year, finally accepting a significant pay cut at a small retailer willing to overlook her history. Janet moved to another state and took a job outside retail entirely. Robert works as a night watchman at a warehouse, his security career effectively over. They've all given interviews expressing remorse for their actions, though Marcus suspects their sorrow has more to do with consequences than genuine understanding. But their personal reckonings are less important than the message their fates send to anyone else tempted to judge customers by appearance rather than character. The story continues to resonate because it represents something universal, the experience of being underestimated, dismissed, or discriminated against based on superficial characteristics. Marcus receives emails from people of all backgrounds sharing similar experiences and expressing gratitude that someone with the power to create change actually used it. The next time you see someone being treated unfairly in a store, at a restaurant, or in any public space, Marcus says in interviews, ask yourself, what would I want someone to do if that were my child? Then do that thing. Document the incident. Speak up if it's safe to do so. Report it to management. Share it on social media if necessary. Don't let prejudice operate in darkness. The message resonates far beyond retail discrimination. It becomes a rallying cry for anyone who has ever felt powerless in the face of injustice. You have more influence than you think. Your voice matters. Your actions can create ripple effects that extend far beyond what you can imagine. And sometimes, just sometimes, the person you're defending or supporting might turn out to be someone with the power to transform an entire industry. But more importantly, they're always someone's child, someone's parent, someone deserving of basic human dignity. You never know who you're really dealing with when you choose to discriminate against another human being. But here's the truth that matters more. It shouldn't make any difference who they are. A CEO or a construction worker, a doctor or a dishwasher, everyone deserves to be treated with respect and dignity. Because today's victim of discrimination could be tomorrow's agent of change. And the next time you're tempted to judge someone by their appearance rather than their character, remember Marcus and Zoe Williams, and ask yourself, is your prejudice really worth the risk of discovering just how wrong you can be? The answer, as 3 former retail employees learned the hard way, is always no.